Welcome to the last video before we maiden the Carbon Z T-28 Trojan. In this video, we are finally putting the FPV gear into the plane. You're gonna see me come to terms with cutting the canopy up, how I decide how I'm going to do it, how we put the Motionsic BAG pan and tilt gimbal into the cockpit, how I decide to put the DJI Air Unit into the canopy, how I'm running the wires. It's still kind of messy. The only thing that we really have left to do at Inav is just to configure the OSD on-screen display. I'm using the DJI Goggles V2, so I don't have my goggles rooted, so I can't, when I record anything on the goggles, I'm unable to record any of the on-screen display stuff. If I had them rooted, I could do that and show them to you, but I don't have them rooted. So anything that I do record or will record is just going to show you, just the recording from the Air Unit. But at the end of this, the plane is going to be, for the most part, it's going to be ready to go. There'll be maybe some minor stuff at the end of this video that I'll need to take care of, prior to the maiden. But as far as having the flight controller done, having Inav configured, and having all of the FPV stuff set up, it's going to be complete by the end of this video. So let's go ahead and get going on it. Now we come to the fun part. We're going to focus on the FPV part with the DJI O3 Air Unit and the Motionsic pan and tilt gimbal from the FPVdogfight.com website. So this is where we get a little creative. I had said in the very first video that we're going to need to cut out the clear canopy, to mount this. I hate doing this. I'd like to keep it in there, but it's, to get hot, with how hot the Air Unit gets right here, it'll overheat. I do put a fan on it. We'll mount it, but I'm here in the southeast United States. It gets really hot in the summertime. So I'm going to pull up the other T-28. I'm going to put it up here and show you, what I did with my last build, and talk about what I think I might do with this one right here. So here's the canopy of the FMS T-28 1.4 meter that I had done on my previous build, and you can see where I have the clear plastic cut out. You can see the difference between the FMS canopy and the E-Flite canopy. It's much clearer on the E-Flite canopy, and the FMS canopy is really cloudy. I had to cut it out, regardless of if I wanted to keep it enclosed or not. It was just too cloudy all the way through. But we're gonna, since they're both T-28s, I'm gonna do something, very similar. One difference though is that the cockpit is much deeper in the FMS versus the E-Flite, so that actually is going to be to my benefit, because I struggled with getting screws long enough to actually mount the pan and tilt gimbal in here. But basically, we want to put this in how the pilot's perspective is going to be, also with where the eye level, coming over the dash. And you can see here where I mounted the air unit and where I have the fan on top, there's airflow that's coming through the the windshield area here. That's flowing through, keeping the air unit cool. I also have, you know, an area cut out in the back for exit. It's probably not cut out enough, but I haven't had any issues with it, you know, while I'm flying it. Seems to go plenty fast enough, but you know, it would do better if I cut it a little bit bigger. But so I'm looking at doing something like this, but I have more room to play with in the Carbon Z canopy, and seeing how it's so clear, I think I'm going to go a different route. What I'm thinking about doing, instead of cutting it all out, you know, I'm still concerned with how hot it gets here in the south. So, you know, regardless, you know, I've seen where people have put maybe an air scoop on top to allow air to come in, you know, so they can keep it fully enclosed but allow air to come in, you know, in here, and have exits, you know, maybe cut out on the side here, or, you know, to allow, you know, air to vent out. I've also seen where, you know, put up here, like, imagine the fuselage is right here, and you have, you know, an air intake, you know, coming in through here to, you know, to vent through. We could do something like that. But I think the route that I'm going to do is maybe not cut out all of this, you know, like I did with the FMS canopy, but instead I think I'm going to opt, because I've got so much room here, but maybe cut out like half on each side, so that way I'd still be able to follow the lines, you know, of the canopy, and it would still also give it the strength, because, you know, when you cut out the canopy, I mean, it's, you know, it's not that rigid, but, you know, it would still give me those lines. You know, it's pretty clear. And maybe I can leave these 3 in here, and, you know, and I can test it. You know, I can, you know, when I mount the DJI camera in here, I can test it to see how clear it is, and, you know, then I can decide whether, you know, I need to remove these or not. You know, maybe I can just, you know, cut out the sides and go with that. But I plan on still mounting the air unit, how I have it back here, you know, here. I still plan on mounting it back in here, you know, I'm not gonna put the antenna, you know, through the canopy like I did in the FMS. You know, I'm probably just gonna lay it back so that way I can still keep these lines. This way I'm not gonna cut all of the canopy out, and then I can decide, because this is pretty clear. But, you know, I want to, you know, with the air unit, it has an SD card or the USB, depending on, because I record my flights, so I want to be able to make it easily accessible. There is a way that if I could extend this cable between the camera and the air unit itself, you know, I could mount it underneath, you know, so that way I could get to the recording, you know, from the air unit. You know, I know that I can record from the goggles, but you're not getting the full 4K, you know, if you record from the goggles, and I like to get the high resolution recording. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try that and not have to cut away all of the canopy, so that way I can maintain the lines. So maybe I'm just going to cut out and and we'll see if that will give me enough airflow with the fan. And this right here, where I've got the air unit here mounted, it's something that I found on Thingiverse, and I'll link it in in the description where I found it. But this is something that I 3D printed. It's made for the air unit, and I've already 3D printed one. That I'll be putting this in, and it has a a mount for the fan, and it'll all go in there, and then I'll just stick it in there. So I'm going to cut this out, and then we'll mount it all in there, and we'll hook it all up. I finished cutting out the canopy. What I did is I cut out right in here, and I also cut out the vents on this side instead of cutting it out on the back like I did in the other FPV build that I did. So I'm going to spin this around. So I'm hoping that it'll give me enough airflow. And here's a vent on this side right here. Then I'll mount the air unit here. I'll take the pilot out. But we'll see if there's enough visibility. And I'll test it. With when I put the air unit in there, I'll see what kind of visibility I have. And what I'll do is I'll run it up to see if there's enough prop wash, airflow getting through here to keep the air unit cool. If not, then what I'll end up doing is at least cutting, if it starts to overheat, then I'll have to cut these plastic pieces out. But I'm hoping that I can, at least keep like this right here and maintain the lines, and not have to cut the rest of the canopies out, because I think this looks pretty sharp. So now I'll remove this pilot and start mounting the Motionsic BAG pan and tilt gimbal with the air unit, and we'll start getting it installed. All right, I put the Motionsic BAG pan and tilt gimbal in the cockpit. I had to use all of the foam risers that was included in the kit that came from FPVDogfight.com. I had to put them in there to get where the DJI camera is going to be able to have full visibility over the dash instrument panel. It's pretty straightforward to install this. It's how I did it is you want to center it, and basically I poke 4 holes into the to match the template of where where this is going to sit. And these are the it comes with a nice set of hardware, but the bolts that comes with it is not long enough. I like to secure this all the way to the other side of the bottom, and I use it comes with another I put it on the bottom because I needed that extra height, but it comes with a piece of plastic, the same type of plastic here, but I needed extra height, so I put it here, or else I could have put it on the bottom here. But what I did instead is I made me some more using some hobby grade plywood, cut out using the same hole templates and for reinforcement. And I haven't tightened it down yet, because what you want to do is once you mount the camera in place, you're gonna want to adjust the, and I don't have it in here yet, but you're gonna want to see if I can get a good angle in here. With the camera, of course, the light's glaring off of it, but you're gonna want to adjust how level it is, so it's gonna be, when you're looking at it, you know, you want it to be level, so it could be kind of tilted one way or the other, or an angle. So you're going to adjust that level with those 4 screws, and so that way, you know, when you're sitting in that cockpit perspective, you know, and you're looking out the, you know, over the instrument panel, you know, you're not constantly looking at it like this right here, you know, at a funky angle or something. You know, you're not, you know, something weird. So you adjust your, you know, your level with those 4 screws. Okay, so the next step for me here is to actually mount the DJI Air Unit. Now, in the Motionsic BAG kit, they do supply a mount to mount the Air Unit, but I think it's for, you know, one of the older Air Units, and I've never used an older Air Unit, but it's not quite for this. And I was, in my last build, I did mount the Air Unit to this, but I was using like double stick tape and zip ties to hold it on. But it has, get this off, it has these, you know, these mounting holes, but they don't line up with, you know, what's on the O3 Air Unit. So it's not quite usable for me. So, you know, what I use is something that I found off of, someone designed off of Thingiverse, and it mounts in here just great. It also has a mounting bracket for a fan, which, you know, you use a small computer fan and it mounts to the top, and then you're able to, you know, you supply power, and I provide power from the SpeedyBee flight controller, and it's constantly, you know, getting, you know, some airflow over it, and so that works out great. So that's what we're going to do, and my intention is to put the Air Unit is to mount it back here. And, you know, the way that I cut out the canopy, you know, I'll still be able to get it and to move it around. And I'm just going to Velcro it there so it's easy to move. All right, so that's going to be the next step, is I'm going to mount the Air Unit. And, you know, the Motionsic BAG gimbal set comes with the necessary hardware to mount the camera to the pan and tilt gimbal. So I'll mount that in there, and then the next thing is to connect it to the flight controller and, you know, set it up. I would like to mention also that, you know, the bolts that were supplied, you know, with the Motionsic BAG gimbal, you know, these bolts weren't long enough for this, you know, to go through all the way through this canopy. And what I ended up using, you know, I got these off of Amazon, but I ended up using the M3 by 60 millimeter bolts. Those were exactly what I needed. The M3 55 millimeters was too short, but the M360 was just right. So if you are doing the same build, you're going to need to get something much longer, and the M360 was exactly what I needed. And also the pilot that, you know, is inside this thing, you know, this it's screwed on, but it also, they glue it so that it stays in there. And, you know, it, you know, if you can see here, it takes some of the paint, and I don't know, you know, the paint code, but I tried to mix some Vallejo colors to try to get it to match. You know, I kind of just eyeballed it. It's not perfect, but, you know, it does a job. I'm not going to go in here and repaint the inside of this canopy. And, you know, once this build is done and I get a couple of flights under my belt with this, I may come in here and, you know, try to make it more scale, you know, do some weathering. You know, I may do you know, more of a more fancy, you know, instrument panel instead of the stickers. But right now I just want to, you know, get it, you know, get it flying, and you know, then I'll come back and make it look better. So I'm not really worried about it at this point. I just, you know, don't want to see, you know, the white foam underneath like it was when I pulled the pilot out. So I just wanted to say that, you know, I don't know what the matching paint color is that E-Flite has here, but I did, had some Vallejo paints. I tried mixing them, trying to get, the right colors, but it was still a little bit too dark. All right, here we are on the inside. Try to clean it up a little bit. I want to point out that whenever you have everything connected and you're working in iNav and you have the your plane powered up with the battery and you have it connected to iNav, you always need to have your pan and tilt gimbal disconnected. The reason why is whenever you do a save and reboot, for some reason I have found that if it's connected and you do a save and reboot, your pan servo will just start spinning around at 180 degrees, and your servo wires will just start wrapping around the gimbal, and then it'll lock itself up. So just as a safety precaution, disconnect these servo wires, and everything else I've always found to be fine, but whenever you're doing that, just disconnect them. But yeah, this is about as clean as I've been able to get it. I've mounted the receiver in the back. Whenever I get it to the field, I'll do my range test. It is tail heavy. There's a lot of room to to add more weight up front, but it is extremely tail heavy right now. So I may end up buying another, maybe a heavier battery. So we'll see how it goes. Right now, the weather has been. We've had a lot of extreme weather here. A lot of fronts moving through, so I'm going to be delayed, probably flying this for maybe another week or two. So this will give me time to either order another battery, or maybe I can fit another 5,000 in here, and it gets some longer flight time. We'll see. It may be too much weight up front to do that, for the front retract, for the front gear, but I'll figure something out. But right now it's looking good. We're done. Also, whenever I was earlier, when I was cutting the canopy, I wanted to keep the line, to keep the lines. I was wondering if keeping the front plastic in, how it would look, if it would be too distorted, and also if the DJI Air O3 Air Unit, if it was going to overheat. It was overheating. I was running the prop. I wasn't flying it, but I was just sitting in the backyard and I was running it, but it was still overheating. So it looks like I'm still going to need to cut these out, but it was very distorted, or it wasn't very distorted, but it was distorted enough that it would get annoying to me. It wasn't so bad on the front windshield, so I may just cut these out and try again. It still looks okay here, but it was still a bit distorted, going from super clear to up here, and this line here on both sides was pretty noticeable. But I could get used to it. I do like being able to keep the line of the of the canopy, but I think what I'm going to do is I'll cut these out and see how that does, if that's enough. I still need to bring the antenna up, get it off, where it's laying. I may end up doing what I did with the other FPV plane, and just drill a hole and have it sticking up and let it be a little robot looking T-28 with a little funky little antenna sitting up there, but it really looks good. You know, with all of it. You know, it's looking really good. I'd like to show you real quick how to set up the head tracking on the Spektrum radio. Now the owner of the Tally-Ho head tracker from FPVDogfight.com, he has a really nice tutorial on his website that he shows you how to do this. But I'm gonna quickly show you how to do this on the IX14. It also is the same for the DX and the NX radios. I'm not going to go through on how to set up the you know, how to set up the head trackers, you know, on the goggles, because you know that's you'll need to do that if you know, whatever head tracker you order. But this is how you actually set up the head tracker on the goggle, I mean on the transmitter itself. So what you do is you're going to go to model setup, and then you're going to go to trainer, and then you're going to go to wired trainer, and then you're going to proceed to turn off the RF, and you know, make sure it's on FPV. You have the different options, but make sure it's on FPV. And then you're going to choose your switch. I use switch F. That's the switch that I use. And whenever I am, you know, not in head tracker mode, you know, I keep it, you know, it stays in instructor mode. And so this is in one of the earlier videos, you know, I was saying, you know, I have the channel 7 and 8 assigned to my rear slider switches. So that way, you know, whenever I don't have the head tracker turned on, I can just control the pan and tilt from the slider switches on the back of the transmitter. So, but I have it assigned to my channel F. You can assign it to whatever channel you would like or switch you would like. And then all you gotta do is say, all right, what output channel? So I go to auxiliary 2 because you have them assigned to auxiliary 2 and 3. And then what you do is you change the mode to student. And the input channel is channel 7. And you're good. And then you change the next output channel to auxiliary 3 and change that mode to student. And the input channel to 8. And then that's it. That's all you have to do. And then you can back out. And then what happens, I'll move my transmitter down here, is I have it on this right here. And so whenever you have your head tracker connected, and I'll show you here in this, you use a cable, and it goes onto the back of the transmitter right here. Whenever it's connected and everything's powered on, and you flip the switch.
No student signal.
And whenever you have everything connected.
No student signal.
Let me see, I can turn my goggles on.
No student signal. Student control.
There you go. So I have my goggles turned on, and you know, so that it's, and then I'll have it here in just a second where you can see the goggles controlling it. But so everything's controlled by the switch, and so whenever I'm in head tracking mode, you just flip the switch, and then the head tracker on the goggles controls the pan and tilt on the plane. And then whenever whenever I land and I want to turn that off, I just flip the switch.
Instructor control.
You know, then whenever I want to control the pan and tilt with the goggles, with the head tracking.
Student control.
And there you go. All right, now that we set up the head tracking control on the transmitter, I want to show you how it looks. So I'm sorry that I don't have the professional recording videos here, but This right here is the Tally-Ho head tracker that I purchased from FPVDogfight.com. Right here, it attaches to my DJI Goggles V2. Now, if you have the DJI Goggles Integra or the DJI Goggles 2, they attach to right here to the front, so they attach differently. So I'm gonna be picking up the camera, and we're gonna put it right here by the plane so you can see it. But what we have is on the transmitter. What we did is we set it up on the F switch. This is where I like it. And right now, nothing happens. I can move the goggles around. Head tracking doesn't work because it's in instructor mode. And there's a wired cable that plugs into the trainer port, or the serial port at the back of the transmitter. Now, if you're using not a Spektrum radio and you're using like an FR Sky radio, you can actually connect this head tracker wirelessly. So there is a benefit to going to FR Sky, because you can do this wirelessly. But we're not doing that, or I'm not doing that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to flip this switch, and I'm going to put this into student mode, which is AKA head tracking. So we're going to flip the switch.
Student control.
All right. So when I do that, we need to center the head tracker. So whenever you're sitting, you're sitting on the field, and you get yourself, you're sitting in the pan and tilt was moving around. You're sitting in the position that you're going to be sitting in to fly the plane. There's a button on the front. So what you do is you push that button, and it centers the pan and tilt. And then you're looking at the front of the plane. And I mean, I can kind of see if I can get this to look you can see, and you're looking through the plane here. All right, so right now, when I move, everything is looking, pan and tilt's going. So now we're going to pick up this camera, and we're going to see the magic happening. So here we are. So I'm moving the goggles up and down, right and left. Now we have FPV. Everything's working. And that's really all there is to it. The only thing we're going to need to do in Inav now is set up the OSD. And this is the on-screen display for your goggles. And I use the DJI Goggles version 2. This takes a second or two. or 3? Okay. So what we do for DJI is we have the unless you've rooted your goggles for the DJI Goggles version 2, we can put them in the Betaflight compatibility mode, and you have two options here: the regular 4.3 version or the Betaflight HD compatibility mode. And I've tried using the HD compatibility mode on my goggles, and the on-screen display components just do not look good, and I just can't get them to fit the screen right. So I use the Betaflight 4.3 compatibility options, and so that's what you're going to want to select. If you have your goggles rooted with the, I think it's the FOS, I think it's what it is. My goggles aren't rooted. If your goggles are rooted, you can record the on-screen display, and you can view those on the screen. But I don't do that, so I can't share that with you or show you how that works. So I'm just going to show you what I do. So I use the Betaflight 4.3 compatibility mode, and you have all these different options that you can put on your you can view on your goggles. And I don't busy my goggles up with too much. I like to see my regular cell voltage, the full battery voltage, and it's not. I mean, I say it's fairly accurate. It's not fully calibrated. I know there's ways to calibrate, what Inav is pulling from your flight controller. There's been times that I've flown my other FPV plane, and it's I get kind of scared. I'm like, oh no, I got to land this plane right now, and I'll land, and I'll check the battery, and I'm like, oh, I could have flown for probably another 3 minutes or so. So I think it's my battery's probably sagging from what I'm doing, but I think if calibrating it, I need to learn how to do that. But so what I have on mine is the single cell voltage, the full battery voltage. This is your distance from your home, from when you take off, the direction of home. Your heading. This is getting the information from your GPS. This right here is your RSSI signal strength. From your receiver. This is your throttle percentage. From your transmitter. So this right here would be like, you can look up here, and so this is like you have 69% throttle that you're using on your transmitter. This is your altitude that's measured from your GPS, and this right here is your measured ground speed from your GPS. So don't confuse this with your your airspeed, unless you've using have a pitot tube on your model. This is measured ground speed. So when you're flying, you're like, oh wow, I'm doing 70, 80 miles an hour. Well, no, not really. This is just what the measured ground speed is that the GPS is measuring. Also, you're looking right here. I have set up how many satellites the GPS is picking up, my flight time. This right here, where it says acro, it's picking up or telling you what flight mode I'm in. System message is any kind of messages that Inav is telling you, on screen. You can read them, in your goggles. I have my, my crosshairs here. I have my Vario, and so. But how you put these on here is you can scroll around on the screen here, and you just choose what it is that you'd like to see. You have all these different options. I'm just going to peruse through here real quick. And there's a lot. I mean, you can busy your screen up. And yes, so say for example right here, I'm going to go to the first one, the RSSI signal strength. And if you look right here is where it was. Let me turn it back on. And if you know what you do is you can place these widgets where you want them on the screen. So if you don't like it here, you know, you can move it somewhere else. And then whenever you're happy with how you want them, you can just click save, and there they are. But I like it right here. That's why I hit save. And so you can, depending on the type of goggles that you have, and I can show you here. Like, let's go here to the Betaflight HD. So like, hey, you got all this real estate right here. But on my Goggles V2, I can place this all around here how I like it, but it doesn't look at, if you have the the Goggles 2, the Goggles Integra, I think this would look really good. But for mine, they do not. So I'll put it back here. And that's it. This is all we're going to do here in Inav, and we're done. The rest of it is we're on the plane. But what you do is you have your have everything connected in your plane, and if you want to when you're setting this up, you just have your goggles powered up, and move these things around and just look in your goggles to see if you like how it looks, because you can look at it, just move it around, hit save, then look in your goggles with your plane and all powered up, and say, okay, yeah, this looks good, and then you continue on. Okay, what I found in doing this, I wanted to keep the lines of the canopy. I don't want to have to cut it all up, and I found that the front of the canopy, by not cutting the plastic out of the side window panes, it was still distorted for me. It was when I put it in the when I armed the plane and put it into full power mode, even running the prop, it wasn't getting enough airflow. It overheated almost immediately. I was trying to record it. I don't know how much I was able to get, so whatever I was able to get, I'm going to I'll have it all included so you can see. I will most definitely, I'm going to be cutting up the canopy a little more. There's still some more tweaking I'm going to do. The center of gravity, the CG for the model is quite tail heavy right now, so actually is a good thing for me, because I would like to be able to have longer flight times. So this means that I can put a heavier battery in this plane, so I can I'd like to be able to have I'd like to have 10 plus minutes of flight time in this plane, and if I can get even close to that, I'm gonna be happy, because it's once when you're flying a plane line of sight and you get 5 6 minutes, then hey, that's great. But when you're flying FPV and you only get 4 or 5 minutes, it's like, oh wow, that happened really fast. So if you can get 7 8 plus minutes, oh, that's great, because even that's going too fast. So if this thing's tail heavy and I can put some heavier battery in it, so to get me more flight time, I'm going to be happy with that. Hopefully I won't have to wait too long to get the maiden flight up to you. Like I said earlier, the weather's been, it's the beginning of spring. There's been a lot of fronts moving through. I'm here in the southeast United States, so it can't decide if it's going to be cool or if it's going to be warm. And so it gets cool, and then it wants to be warm, and then it gets cool, so we get storms and a lot of heavy winds, and so that's preventing me from doing anything. So hopefully we won't have to wait too long before I get that maiden up to you. But until then, I appreciate you sticking with me in these videos. Hopefully I was able to you know, show you something. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much with it, but this has been a pretty fun journey for me. This is going to be a really nice plane. You know, when I've taken it outside and put the goggles on and, you know, looking around in it, I mean, this is pretty sweet. You know, it's a good sized plane, so I'm really excited to take it out and fly it, and I'm looking forward to sharing that experience with you. So I appreciate it, and I'll see you at the Maiden.